Previously, we looked at working with variables and nesting, and today we are going to look at mixins. This is what we had in the previous tutorial. So before we even get started, you need to understand what mixins are. These are basically a set of properties that helps you create reusable chunks of CSS, which can be included in other CSS rules. Also, the key importance of mixins is just to maintain consistency and reduce redundancy in your style sheets. So here is a basic example of mixin. So here is how we write mixin. We need to find the mixin. For example, I will say button styles. Then I'll put all the styles in here. Maybe padding, 10 pixels, 20 pixels, border radius, 5 pixels, then background color. We can give it a color. Then the color, we can give it white, it's triple F. Border none, cursor, we can give it point. So this entire chunk of code is what we call defining the mixin. After defining it, you need to use it. So here is how to use it. Use the mixin. Use it, we shall just get a class. For example, let's go back here and then here the button. We call it primary button as a class. So what we are going to do is we go to styles.less. Then we get the class primary button. Then here we shall use the mixin, which is just button styles. So we just said button styles. That is it. So when we go back to our browser, you can see the button styles is automatically put here. So I can go and remove the underline. So we can add to the button styles text decoration none. And that is it. We can also create another button. Let me just copy this and paste it there, and then I call it secondary button, for example. Then I go to my LESS CSS file, and then I can style the secondary button, and I give it button styles, and also I can give it a background color. Let's give it a random color, so you can see that, and it will just change the color. This is how easy it makes it to play around with mixins in CSS. This is just like overriding the primary background color, which doesn't need you to use the word important. So it's so simple. Let me write a comment here. Now there is also mixins. Mixins can also access parameters, which makes it more flexible. So I'm going to show you an example of that in a minute. So let me comment on this, and I just call it without parameters. And then I will comment on the entire line of code, and then let's create mixins with parameters. So I want you guys to see the difference. So it's normally the same way. We are going to define it, which is basically, it is button styles. Then we are going to give it parameters. Add, for example, bg color, comma, then also add text color, for example. This can be anything depending on what you're defining. And then here we shall create the styles. You can give it padding, 10 pixels, 20 pixels, border radius, 5 pixels, and then we can say background color, and then we get our parameter, which is bg color right here. And then also we can do color, then we get our parameter, which is text color. Then let's say cursor pointer. So after defining the mixin, we can just come below here and use it. So to use it, we shall get our class, which is right here in the HTML for the button, primary button right here. So you can copy it and then start with a dot. Then open your LESS CSS, and then you just say button styles, which is this. Then open brackets. Then we can give it a color. So the bg color, so you can write your color code here. For example, I'll use this, and then comma, then I will put in there white. So what this will do is, this is the background color, so I'll put the color code there, and then the text color, then I put the color code here. It makes that way. Then we can also use it in the secondary button. So I'll just do secondary button. So inside this button, we shall just get the button styles, and then we shall put the background color, the color code, and then the text color. So I'll just do 670, then white. You can see that same thing. So in the button styles, we can add here text decoration, none. And you can see this is basically the same thing, but done in two different ways. The first one was without parameter, you can see. Then here is mixins with parameters. So you simply use what you feel is fair for you. So now let's look at mixins which are nested. Remember we talked about nesting in the previous video. So let's see how we can nest mixins as well. So let me remove this, find the code. Let me just leave it for learning purposes. So right on top here, we're going to define a mixin called box shadow, and the parameter is shadow. Then inside it, we shall say box shadow, shadow. So after that, we have our button styles. We are going to maintain this, but we are going to add another parameter, which is shadow here. And then right below the text decoration, we can just add dot shadow, shadow. You can see that. So now we can use this mixins with a nested mixin. So I'll just modify this part. Primary button will remain the same, and that will remain the same. Then I'll add there the shadow that we added, which is we are just going to add a comma, and then we can give it 0 and then 4 pixels. Then we give it the box shadow RGBA color, which is going to be 0, 0, 0, 3 zeros, 0.1. And then same applies to this. We can just add a comma and then add the value for the box shadow. So to do that, we shall repeat the same, 0, 4 pixels, and then RGBA, 3 zeros, 0, 0, and then 0.1. This is basically how to use a nested mixin. Just for you to get a context, so the box shadow mixin basically defines the property, and then the button styles allow you to add shadow to the button, which is down here. Then the mixin is used with different parameters, including the shadow property, which is down here, From this example, you can see this is what we came up with, and you can see the shadow is right there. When you use mixin, it will help you create clean, maintainable, and reusable styles, so that anytime you want to make any change to any of this button, you just have to come and add something here or remove something here, and everything else in the entire website or wherever you're building will just be changed automatically. You don't have to go and change individual items. So guys, if you have any questions, leave them in the comment. Otherwise, thank you so much. See you in the next